Very good. Hello, everyone. We are now online and public, and I'm waiting for a few seconds to let the time for people to connect before we start the webinar. Okay, so I guess some other people will join later on, but we should start right now because we all have a busy schedule. So hello, good morning for those in Paris, in Europe, and good afternoon for those in Asia, in Japan. I'm Céline PAJON. I'm head of Japan research at the French Institute for International Relations in Paris. And I'm very happy to welcome you to this webinar today. We will talk about the Japan defense posture, but also Indo-Pacific geostrategies, France's position in the region, and the bilateral cooperation between the two countries. So as most of you know, and maybe that's the reason why you connected with us, last December, for the first time in 10 years, Japan updated its security and defense strategy to better adapt and respond to a worsening security environment. So we've seen a series of measures, including a doubling, an announcement of doubling of the defense budget, at least, and the acquisition of a counter-attack capabilities. And these measures have been described by several analysts, and including myself, I must say, as an historic move and really a kind of Japan's own Zeitenwende in defense policy. So today I would like to discuss this development. What are the significance of these moves by Japan? What are the rationales behind this? What are the main challenges to implement these decisions? Also, I would like to explore the implication for Japan's capacity and willingness to act as a strategic player on the international scene. And in particular, sitting in Paris, I would be more interested to hear about the possible implication for the security and defense cooperation between Japan and France. As you know, France is an Indo-Pacific nation. We are very present in the region, and we do work a lot with our regional partners, and Japan is one of the key partners for France in the Indo-Pacific. And so to do that, I'm not alone this morning. I'm very happy to welcome a stellar panel of practitioners and experts that will share their view with us, and you will be able to see them, I think. Now, first, I would like to introduce them very quickly. Very happy to greet Captain Keizo Kitagawa. He has a long career in the Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Forces. He's currently the Dean of the Strategic Studies Department at the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Forces Command and Staff College. And he will offer his thoughts on the recent strategic development. So welcome, Captain. Very nice to see you again, and looking forward to your comments. Then we'll have the pleasure to have the Rear Admiral Jean-Mathieu Rey, who is the head of the French Navy Foreign Relations, called ALRI in France, and will present France's engagement in the Indo-Pacific and the significance of the security partnership with Japan. Thank you very much for joining us. I understand that you have a very tight schedule, and you will have to leave us a little bit early. So I will encourage also the public, if they have some question or reaction, to not to wait too much. And thanks a lot for being with us. And last but not least, Hideshi Tokuchi-san is the president, I must say, the President Tokuchi, of Japan Research Institute for Peace and Security, the RIPS. And he will provide his perspective on the main challenges ahead for Japan to implement the new strategy and the implication for the alliance with the US and for the relations with France also. So each panelist will have 10 to 15 minutes for its initial remarks, and then I will let you react to each other. And I will raise my my own questions and comment and open the Q&A, of course, to the public. So before we start, let me remind you that this is a public and recorded webinar. And to the audience, please do not wait too much to write your question down for our panelists on the Zoom Q&A window, so that we have a good discussion afterwards. So without further ado, I would like to start right now by giving the floor to Captain Kitagawa. So very nice to see you, Captain. The floor is yours for approximately 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. Céline, thank you very much for introducing. This is Captain Keizo Kitagawa at Tokyo. As you kindly introduced, currently I'm the Dean of the Strategic Studies Department at the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force Command Staff College. Our college educates future leaders of the Navy and also a think tank for JMSDF. Today, I'm very fortunate for my long friend Céline to give the opportunity as a title, Japan as an upgraded strategic player, what implications for the Indo-Pacific and the cooperation with France. Noting my uniform is same as Admiral Ray, the Navy. And in my nature, I will talk about Japanese security and policy and defense strategy, but mainly focus on the maritime side. I'm pretty much half academia and half official. So it's what I say is totally my impersonal view in the background of our naval and defense strategies. First of all, the France is really important for Japan, and I'm really impressed that Ifri choose this topic. Very timely. That's where the Japan issued a new security strategy, and also we call the defense strategy, which is the first time we do that on that name. And I'm glad that Tokuchi Sensei is with us, and that he will give us perhaps give me a big push from the big defense perspective. First of all, I would like to talk what's the significance of the Japanese security strategy and defense strategy, and what does it mean for France and Japan in about 10-15 minutes. First of all, about security strategy, there are the reason why is in the States. I read in Japanese, and I should read it in English, the documents, but it's like a historical like dividing points, if you like. This is the remarkable change of the security policy if the historian will look at it in maybe 10, 20, or 30 years later. That's very significant. And there are 3 points I would point if I summarize with a limited amount of time. The one is the Japan put the international order on the top priority, which does not allow this change of status quo by power. So we pursue the rule of law. That's one thing, and that is really significant. So we didn't put Japan first. We put international the order first. And secondly, the new things of this document would be these having the international order, and also it is like go well with the more strengthen our defense capability. So this is these two things go together. I think that's pretty new things characteristic of our security strategy. And third point, new is the in a way the competition or contestants to make the order, i.e., we put like the country in a sequence with China, North Korea, and Russia, and it's a Japanese problem, not problem with Japan's concern, and Japan itself will confront all these countries. So I think this is more a more stepping up pitch than previous documents. That we says this is the most difficult and most comprehensive or most difficult security environment since the Second World War. So that's what we said. And as you know, the will be increased to the defense budget of the 2% of GDP by 2027, and the government is doing its own best. So that's the background. And then that's overall characteristics. So for the France, where does the France fits to us? Yeah, I can see the map of the in the Admiral Ray's office, but there will be three approaches of defense. If I say more easier terms in the defense document, there's three approaches. First is strengthening own defense capability. That means more stronger self-defense force. And secondly, strengthen the more bilateral cooperation with U.S. alliance. That's secondly. And thirdly, that's where the France came a big role, as we will strengthen the cooperation with like-minded countries. And their names in Europe is United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Italy. These four countries were particularly named. And I'm not sure the French people may like it, but in the documents, I didn't say it, although I was a former defense attaché to the United Kingdom from 2013 to 16. It said UK, France, Germany, Italy. So, but France is highly pitched because it also says about NATO and EU. And if we think about that, France is a crucial part, because also France, because Japan, with the relation with Europe, will based on these four countries, then extend to the NATO and EU. That's what the document says, which means the pretty much only country which is capable with will and capability for these NATO and EU, only country France, which is very, very significant, I think, as a part of the watching the European security and then this global security strategy, particularly in the naval aspect. So then what this means to the US, the France and Japan. If you, Céline, would you put the slides for the map? There's a second slide I prepared. Second one. Yeah, second one. Second one. Sorry. Yeah. Second slide. The map. Oh.
Can't you see it?
Yeah, the second one.
Yeah. Can you see it right now?
Yeah, I can see it. The map,
okay.
Please. The map. Yep.
This one?
No. The map is Japan.
Mm.
Can you control?
I have this one.
The second one. Second one.
I got, this is the second one.
All right, then thank you. So I would like to talk on the three levels, strategic level and operational level. and the tactical level, mainly for maritime issue, because in global picture, how Japan and France would be maritime nature, that's for sure. So strategically, I have to say Japan is the only country that faces Russia and North Korea and China at the same time. That's the only country which Japan, so in the strategically, if you want to understand Indo-Pacific, particularly Western Pacific, Japan would be the best country to team. And so to understand the French global awareness, note that French has great presence in Southern Pacific and also Indian Ocean. So that's these global understanding will be very beneficial, particularly for the naval service, that's for sure. And Céline, would you go to the next slides? Yes. So this is the source from French MOD. These like a smile sign like blue, I wrote it. So this is how Japan see the interest, like for like particularly sea-level communication. And note, many covers with French interests. So in strategically, I would say this is a win and win relations. And like I mentioned earlier, the French would be the only country which can cover both NATO and EU. That's I was in the European House in Tokyo yesterday for the EU seminar, which how EU maritime cooperation with Japan. And I was thinking about France. I would say it is the only pretty much France can make interest of EU and some part of NATO to the Indo-Pacific. And so this is the France can play a really strategic role on that aspect strategically. Next, operationally. So if you see this map, you can be there are many theaters on these French strategy and Japanese interests. So what we can do together is like sharing information, sharing the intelligence also, because we do have agreement, and also the logistics, because we have the tyranny of distance. I've been to deploy to Middle East a couple of times, and it takes like 3 weeks from like a port of Sasebo to the Horn of Africa or the Strait of Hormuz. So that is also same condition for like French Navy. So these things will be very important for the operational theater aspect. And thirdly, a tactical level. Would you, Céline, would you change to next slide? Yes. These are all from the photos recently. We just had the Lapilus 2023, and Suzuki, actually the Commodore of Igatani was one of my former command officer when I was a Commodore of the Escort Division. We just had the multinational exercise hosted by French Navy, like name India, United States, United Kingdom, Japan, Australia, and the France, of course, in the Indian Ocean. And the left, the Shelkoof, the left down photo is in visiting Sasebo and Arc 21, these pictures. And also we did the exercise with Charles de Gaulle task group. So what I want to say is tactical level, the Navy is quite easier than other service, and we've been doing. And in the defense strategy, we state we will strengthen these training, more interoperability with like-minded country. So far it has been more easier because we use US IE NATO procedure, and particularly Navy, we have similar culture already. And for example, the French attaché to Tokyo is always a naval officer, and that helps a lot. So these procedure, and then also like also these equipment wise, there are many ways to cooperate. And also in the defense strategy, it says the defense equipment and technology are the area of cooperation. So all in all, I will stop saying for the how the Japanese defense strategy evolved, security strategies, characteristics, and the approach, and how these strategic and operational and tactical level enhance our bilateral defense and security cooperation. Back to you, Céline.
Thank you very much, Kitagawa-san. Trying to be back. Yeah, thank you very much for the very useful presentations. I just have more questions in mind to you for afterwards. So we look forward to the discussion. But thanks a lot for highlighting the significance of what France is doing in the region and the significance of the bilateral cooperation. That's great. So now I'm turning to the Rear Admiral Ray for its part. So the floor is yours, Admiral.
Thank you, Céline, for the floor. I start forward regarding our strategy. Our French strategy in the Indo-Pacific is based upon three questions. Why is France present in this region? What tool and means does France use to ensure a useful presence? And how is France able to implement its strategy? First, France's presence in the region is based on its identity as a member of the Indo-Pacific region, as a member of the EU, and as a member of the UN Security Council, permanent member. France is indeed a member of the Indo-Pacific and has to ensure the defense of its fundamental interests, which are defending the sovereignty of its institution and integrity of territories, protecting the population, French population, about 2 million of French citizens living in their territory, securing its EEZ and its approaches, and seeking the stability of the neighborhood and its sustainable development. This is why the Indo-Pacific concept, Japanese concept, suits France's situation pretty well, and for all this territory. But these territories are in the south when the tensions are in the north, thus explaining why we may be less visible in this important region. Indeed, the maritime dimension of France is often overlooked, whereas France has the second largest maritime domain. Most of this maritime domain is in the Indo-Pacific, with the scattered islands, the South Island in Indian Ocean, New Caledonia, French Polynesia, then Clipperton. In total, the French maritime in the Indo-Pacific cover more than 9 million square kilometers. It's about more 20 times of France's territory. Secondly, the strategic interests, freedom of trade, and therefore economic security, maritime trade, all this aspect is crucial in Indo-Pacific. The region is home of the world's top 10 harbors, and there is a lot of exchanges regarding metropolitan territory and our overseas territories, freedom of navigation, and therefore security of these spaces are crucial for France. Finally, environmental security with the need for international cooperation to meet global challenges is a main concern of France. Sea level is rising in the Pacific. And once again, we have territories and citizens in this part of the world, a rate 4 times higher than the world average. This could lead to a rise in water level of 70 centimeters or more by 2100. It's not so far. Finally, power interests. There are the fight against proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, compliance with international treaties, and strategic stability. France, as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, encourages peaceful settlement of disputes and contributes to the implementation of resolution. This is why we are actively taking part to UN-mandated missions in the region, such as the enforcement of the embargo in North Korea through the ECC mission. France participates with maritime patrol aircraft and surveillance frigates since 2018, and we will continue. Having defined the reason, the why, I switch to the tools that enable us to act towards these interests. These are the military capabilities, which provides the potential to turn a concept into action. This is the with what. Obviously, military means are far from being the only ones to contribute. They are combined and coordinating with all the tools available for states, diplomacy, economy, culture, etc. We have 7,000 men, about 15 ships and 40 aircraft permanently based in this part of the world. Of course, it's not sufficient against the big arsenals from the other country. There are 3 levels of response to this question: capacity, cooperation, and politics. At the capacity level, we can expect developments within the framework of our military program law. President Macron recently announced a significant increase in the budget of our armed forces. In terms of cooperation, France, being both an Indo-Pacific country and an EU country, can assume a driving role regarding a naval presence in this theater. The development of the Indo-Pacific strategy by the Netherlands, Germany, and the EU illustrates the common dynamics and a shared vision. Finally, and at the political level, French sailors themselves acknowledge that for some of our units, the smaller ones, the major weapon system is the flag. It is too little for high-intensity warfare, but it is relevant and sufficient when used as a strategic signal at the right time and the right place to demonstrate our solidarity. When choosing the means of action, one of the essential parameters to take into account is the where, as our territories are stretched out the tyranny of distance. It takes a long time from sailing from our territories to China Sea. This is paramount to be taken into account in order to allocate our forces between our overseas territory and the metropolitan area. The current operational logic will therefore remain, with low and medium tonnage ships prepositioned in our overseas territories, first-rank frigates permanently deployed in the Indian Ocean, and regular deployments of first-rank ships, aircraft carrier, helicopters carrier, and submarine. We are doing that this year, for instance, with the Jeanne d'Arc group, and we did last year with the Charles de Gaulle group. After the political objective and the military capacity, the third question is the how. Being present without being a factor of crisis or a subject of weakness. Therefore, acting helpful, sovereign, and committed. Being helpful implies putting our means at the service of those we need them, in particular when facing tricky situations. Military means, far from being dedicated only to combat action, are often the only tools likely to bring help. This assistance can take many forms. I show a few examples. Support to scientific initiatives, supply mission in Antarctica with our scientific bases, participation to scientific research toward environmental anticipation, such as Kivikwaka, which monitors weather-sensitive birds to prevent tsunami and cyclone. Humanitarian theme exercise in the Indian Ocean, IMEX 22, our training school group, which I just speak about before, participated alongside the Indian, Iranian, and Bangladeshi navies. In the Indo-Pacific Ocean HDR mission in Indonesia in 2005, Mozambique in 2019, and more recently, last year in Tonga after the earthquake in 2022. And HDR exercises such as Croix du Sud, Southern Cross in English, and Marara in Polynesian language, Tahitian language. The 2023 edition will be organized by our forces in New Caledonia starting in April next month with more than 15 participating countries. Being sovereign means, among other things, showing our determination to monitor and defend our EEZ by acting also at the edges within the framework of regional fisheries agreements. It also means supporting cooperation with the South Pacific Islands against IUU fishing, which is a growing challenge for food security and biodiversity. Being committed means showing professionalism and goodwill in all cooperation organizations, likely to improve exchanges between neighboring countries. It is with this mindset that France has taken over the presidency of the Indian Ocean Navy Symposium in 2021, and is currently advocating for increased exchanges with a matching forum in the Pacific, WPNS. Being committed also means encouraging our EU partners to get more involved in the region, which is the very purpose of the EU strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. Since 2019 and the attacks on merchant ships in the Arabian Gulf, France has been a driving force in setting up a maritime security operation called AGENOR with 8 of our European partners. This operation should soon merge with European Atalanta mission to fight piracy in the Horn of Africa and to meet the challenges of maritime security after the withdrawal of American forces in this region in the past years. This withdrawal is a reality we have to take into account. Now that the why, with what and how have been laid out, I'd like to focus for a bit on concrete illustration of what we have done and what we are planning to do in the region. You can see on this slide an example of French mission and deployment in the area in 2021, a year of significant engagement. I mentioned earlier the importance of strategic signaling, our participation in major exercises with our partners. We just mentioned La Pérouse, ARC 21, with Japanese forces close to Japanese in Japanese territory. All that are messages sent to our competitors and to our partners on our willingness to act together and to improve our interoperability. The mission of the nuclear submarine Emerald, the Marianne mission in 2021, here in training with the helicopter carrier Yuga, was intended in particular to demonstrate our willingness and ability to send superior assets far from the mainland and to acquire greater autonomy in assessing the situation in the region. For this large-scale deployment, we have needed our partners and allies in the region, the United States and Australia for knowledge and support points, Japan for training together. It all was made possible thanks to the very high degree of mutual trust and shared belief. A nuclear submarine in the area, supported by partners, is a strong strategic message, which we believe may contribute to stability. As long as our allies agree with it, we will try and planning such deployments, counting on our partners for logistical support and information sharing. Since 2021, the French Navy has been engaged in growing number of interaction with the Japanese Navy, an expression of enhanced mutual trust and interest to work together. 6 port calls were conducted of French ships in Japanese harbors and vice versa, 3 more to come in 2023. Any opportunity is now sought to conduct Auguri Verni, as we call together, Japanese and French, which are by essence enhanced past sexes. We name, pay tribute to the historical links and similarities between 2 of our major naval bases, Yokosuka and Brest. Last January, our aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle was able to meet twice with destroyer Suzuki in the Indian Ocean, allowing for the first time cross exchanges of personnel on board. In 3 days, a Japanese cadet will be embarking on our ship Mistral for 1 month to follow part of our cadet training campaign. And one of our lieutenant commander just came back a few days ago from the Indo-Pacific Naval College seminar in Japan. We are grateful to the Japanese Navy for organizing such seminar, and we remain eager to participate as it surely paves the way for an enhanced understanding of our strategic culture and sharing of our experiences between our sailors. Without even speaking of meeting from subject matter expert to our respective chief of the Navy, the past 2 years have witnessed more regular encounters, even despite COVID restriction. As I am speaking, 5-star Admiral Dolamotte is currently in Japan with a great deal of meeting to conduct during DSEI exhibition. I think my time is over, but I would add to that the challenges that we will face tomorrow will require us to be able to face issues from the lower end to spectrum high intensity conflict, as well as violent interaction. In this context, France acts as a European power and as an Indo-Pacific power, without subscribing to a logic of polarization. We honor our commitment with our partners and allies. Our latest strategic review since autumn 2022 is unambiguous and states that, I quote, "We are moving from a latent competition to an open confrontation coming from Russia, and increasingly, we observe a more exacerbated competition with the People's Republic of China," end quote. In other words, adopting this specific position posture for France does not necessarily mean being equidistant or renouncing strategic solidarity with our allies and partners. We are aware of the risks and threats, and we advocate first and foremost for collective management of challenges to strengthen the multilateral security architecture. Thank you for the floor. And sorry for I've been a little bit too long, Céline.
No problem. Thanks a lot, Admiral. It was a very comprehensive and very interesting, fascinating presentation. So I'm sure that other participants will also have some reaction, maybe add some comment on it. So I would like to turn directly to Tokuchi-san for his own comment, and especially regarding the challenges, the things that will be less easy to implement for Japan and for the bilateral relation. Tokuchi-san, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Céline. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are located. First of all, let me thank Ifri, particularly Céline, for having me in this very interesting event. It's always fun for me to work with Ifri. I'm very, very sorry I haven't prepared any PPT slides, so I'm going to talk about several issues without any slides. Very sorry about that. As Captain Kitagawa and Admiral Ray already covered a lot of important points. So I'd like to add some footnotes to their very, very insightful presentations. As there are so many articles and reports about the counter-strike capabilities and the increase of defense spending in Japan and elsewhere, I'd like to shed light on some other points as, in accordance with particularly in accordance with the instructions by Céline. First, main challenges ahead in the implementation phase of the strategy, and second, its implications for the Japan-US alliance relationship, and finally, security cooperation between Japan and France from my own personal perspective. At the outset, however, please allow me to say a few words about my own evaluation of the new strategy. In general, strategy is about the following 3 points. First, where you are located right now. And second, where you should be headed for. And third, how you get there from here. The destination is very generic and remains the same, for example, national sovereignty, independence, or territorial integrity, and so on and so on. But we are in a very different world today than 9 or 10 years ago. So our path to the same destination is much different from that in the past. The road right now is rougher and tougher. In order to go through the bumpy road, Japan lays out more vehicles and more sophisticated devices. There are some unprecedented and ambitious decisions and projects in the new strategy. It is unusual for the Japanese government to call it a dramatic transformation when it changes its course in the national security and defense policy. But it is not a revolution, actually, from my own perspective. It's an evolution with a giant leap. The course of Japan's policy is not fundamentally changed. It remains almost the same. But the Japanese efforts have become accelerated, much accelerated, due to the aggravation of the situation. You can see it in the concept, for example, in the concept of defense buildup. The construct established in 2018 in the National Defense Program Guideline of that year, namely multi-domain defense force. This construct is still the guiding concept. Actually, the National Defense Strategy states, if I may quote, Japan will fundamentally reinforce the current multi-domain defense force through further accelerated efforts, unquote. Now, so much for the introduction, and I'm getting down to my own main points. First, main challenges in terms of implementation. I do not mean to be pessimistic, but there is some uncertainty actually. As a declaratory policy, the three national security documents, including, of course, national security strategy and national defense strategy, have a number of positive initiatives and projects, particularly broadening the scope of the whole of government approach to involve more ministries and organizations. That's good. The Japanese public support for the efforts to strengthen the defense capabilities is strong. 55% affirmative versus 36% negative, according to an opinion poll conducted 1 week after the decision. However, it will take a considerable amount of resource, both political and financial, in order to establish a robust defense structure as planned. Public support for the tax increase is not strong. Of course, we can't expect strong support for tax increase, but more than 80%, 80% had doubt about the Prime Minister's accountability on the tax increase, according to the same opinion poll. And according to another poll conducted last month in February, only 23% said yes to the tax increase, and 64% said no to it. Another thing, deployment of new capabilities might cause strong opposition among the local communities. Just yesterday, a new ground force camp was opened in the island of Ishigaki in Okinawa Prefecture, in order to deploy a surface-to-air missile regiment. The city council of the city of Ishigaki had adopted two different resolutions related to the deployment in mid-December, just after the adoption of the strategy document. One was against, specifically against the deployment, and the other was not against, but demanded information disclosure and explanation. And both resolutions referred to residents' concerns about the deployment. So careful management of the base issues, actually the base issues, not only in the city of Ishigaki, it's everywhere. So the careful management of the base issues is very, very important. And also, it is an open question whether, actually, I'd like to ask this point to Captain Kitagawa precisely, but my point is that, it's an open question whether other relevant ministries and organizations, particularly Japan Coast Guard, JCG, in particular, are more cooperative to make Japanese and American military deployment and operations more smooth and effective. It seems that the culture of Japan Coast Guard is changing. Of course, I know that. And Japan Coast Guard seems more cooperative with the military, and closer cooperation of the law enforcement organization and the military is critically important, particularly to address gray zone contingencies. But unreserved optimism must be avoided in my mind. So I'd like to, but I'm not so sure about it. So if possible, I'd like to ask about this thing to Captain Kitagawa. Anyway, another point, human resource. It's another important issue as the birth rate keeps shrinking in the Japanese society, and recruitment of young troops will be a big, actually bigger headache for the Japanese defense forces. As far as the new strategy documents are concerned, there are no drastic measures to address this specific issue. The whole of government approach should be applied on a full scale, particularly on this issue. And all these things, budget, tax increase, base issues, and recruitment, or the whole of government approach. All these things require strong political leadership, particularly of the prime minister. So we have to keep watching. My second point is about the future of the Japan-US alliance. The alliance cooperation with the United States continues to be a major pillar of the Japanese national defense policy. It must be more robust. Japan hosts more than 50,000 US troops on its own soil. US aircraft carrier Ronald Reagan and its battle group are home-ported in Japan. The US forces stationed in Japan cover not only Japan, but also the entire Indo-Pacific. Japan has been providing one of the most dependable stationing environments to the US forces, not only by financial measures, but also by industrial capabilities and capacities. As Japan is expanding its military roles and enhances its capabilities, including, of course, counter-strike capabilities, a new division of labor will have to be devised. For example, Japan's counter-strike capability will not be effective without cooperation with the United States, including in intelligence, technology, and targeting. Also, alliances more than just military cooperation. It includes intelligence, law enforcement, and in economic security. We have to take ministries and organizations in economy. Those organizations must be involved as well. So a whole of government approach is a must in alliance cooperation as well. My final point is about security cooperation with like-minded countries, particularly France. Indispensability of international security partnership is an important lesson from the war in Ukraine. The most important guiding principle of Japan's international security cooperation is a free and open Indo-Pacific, or FOIP. The national security strategy states that Japan will strive to make the vision for FOIP more universal around the world and expand efforts to ensure maritime security. For this purpose, partnership with like-minded countries, particularly with those countries and organizations which already established their own Indo-Pacific strategies, including France and the EU, is important. We know that, of course, as all the, the other, people, Admiral Ray, Captain Kitagawa, and Céline, all the three people correctly mentioned that France is Indo-Pacific. We know that. We, the Japanese, already know that. Maritime security of the South China Sea will be a focal issue because the South China Sea is the artery of global economy, and also the South China Sea is located exactly at the center of the entire Indo-Pacific, connecting the world's largest and third largest oceans. Naval cooperation in the South China Sea, such as joint exercise or protocol, as already mentioned by Admiral Ray, will be a very valuable attempt in order to retrieve the balance of power in our advantage. The Indo-Pacific is very, very diverse, having a number of sub-regions, including the South Pacific Island region. The South Pacific is important for Japan as the sea lines of communication between Australia and Japan. Actually, Australia is very, rich in natural resources, iron ore, LNG, and today hydrogen as well. And also, the South Pacific is located as the southern flank of the U.S. Indo-PACOM in Hawaii. So it is very important in terms of the Japanese and security and Japan-US alliance terms. in fact, those island countries have long historical relations with Japan too. France and Japan will be able to enhance their cooperation in the Pacific Island Forum, PIF, and also the partners in Blue Pacific, PBP, say in capacity building cooperation on HADR, maritime security, and as somewhat mentioned by someone, probably an array, climate security or environmental security as well. France is specifically mentioned as an important security partner together with the UK, Germany, and Italy next to Australia and India in the part of the international cooperation in the national defense strategy, as correctly mentioned by Captain Kitagawa. Both Japan and France should move forward, capitalizing on this. In this regard, the Japanese government should establish its own Indo-Pacific strategy so that it can well align with French and other countries' Indo-Pacific strategies if Japan would like to make the vision truly universal. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida committed in last year's Shangri-La dialogue to lay out a free and open Indo-Pacific plan for peace by this spring. I'm not so sure whether it will be rolled out when it will be rolled out, specifically in this spring, but the plan should not be just a patchwork of miscellaneous projects. It should be a real blueprint for Japan's vision. This is purely my own personal comment, but I stop here. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Céline, back to you.
Thank you very much, Toguchi-san. Very, very strong statement and very challenging thought. So now, for the sake of time, I would like to go back to Captain Kitagawa and Admiral Ray to ask for their reaction and response to your question, and I will add mine also. I will take this opportunity maybe to focus first on the bilateral cooperation, because Admiral Ray will have to leave a bit earlier. So I would like to ask both the captain and Admiral about what you see as the way ahead for the future operational cooperation between Japan and France, in particular in naval cooperation. Admiral, do you envision a dispatch of the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier? It has been to Singapore already, but do you envision the possibility to go in the South China Sea or maybe all the way to Japan? There is also a reciprocal access agreement that is in discussion currently between France and Japan, and Japan recently signed this kind of agreement with Australia and the UK. So do you think that in a short or medium term, this RIAA would be concluded or not? It would be quite significant also to advance and to deepen the cooperation. Also, Toguchi-san referred also to the South Pacific region, and Admiral Ray, you are the former Alpacid, also former commander for the French Armed Forces in the Pacific, in the Asia Pacific. So you know about the area. So how do you see Japan and France cooperating in the region and deepening their cooperation in this very strategic vision as well? So maybe we can start with there's a question relating to the bilateral cooperation, and then I will come back maybe to challenge a bit more about the Japan's own strategy. And maybe I would like to add something. on the Japan Coast Guard, because Tokuchi-san, you mentioned about the Coast Guard, and indeed it's a very important part. Actually, the budget of the Coast Guard is also going to be raised by 1.4%, I believe. So that's not percent, 1.4, and that's quite important. And the Coast Guard are really on the front line when tackling hybrid and gray zone situation with China and others. And I know that there is also a cooperation ongoing between France and France Navy and the Coast Guard at various levels. So I would be also interested to know a bit more about this and to push you a little bit more about it. So that's for my first set of questions that I must say are also relayed by some people in the audience, in the public, including Christophe Pipolo, who is a former defense attaché in Tokyo, who raised the question of the role of the Japan Coast Guard. So who wants to shoot first on this? Captain Kitagawa or Admiral Ray? Yes, okay. Well, Admiral maybe first and then, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If Captain Kitagawa agrees, I started. Okay, thank you. A lot of question to start, but I think in coherence of our engagements in this part of the world, in Indo-Pacific, because we are from this part of the world, we are investing new forces. So first of all, I underline the fact we have a new offshore patrol vessel just deployed from France mainland, which is when we are speaking together in port visit in French Polynesia, navigating to New Caledonia, which will be new base for this OPV. And we will have by 2025, so in 2 years, we will have 6 OPV, brand new OPV based in Indo-Pacific, La Réunion, New Caledonia, and French Polynesia. In the same way, we are renewing our surveillance aircraft. We deploy in the area around our territories for our sovereignty, but in accordance to our investments against nuclear proliferation. So we use this aircraft based in Japan with the support of Japan during the ECC mission I just mentioned during my presentation. And we will renew this aircraft with a new model, more powerful, better range and better equipments for surveillance and intervention. About the high intensity, Céline, you mentioned the deployment of our aircraft carrier. Already, we deploy our amphibious task group, Jeanne d'Arc, which is a training group, but an amphibious group too, and is today in Indian Ocean between India and Singapore, and he will be in the Pacific. I mentioned the exercise Southern Cross. We will conduct together with Japan and 14 other countries. And we are planning with other deployments, the Charles de Gaulle group, new submarine, and new air defense destroyer. It will be the case this year with a new air defense Lorraine, which is a brand new French ship. And we will deploy in this part of the world with interaction with Japanese forces, of course. And next year we will deploy same type of ship to RIMPAC 2024, and so we will operate with allies forces like Japanese one. About the agreement, two last point: agreement and cooperation. Agreement, it's a very important point from our point of view. The fact partners are able to support mutually their forces. So that's why we are working with our Japanese partners to have an agreement to be able to get alongside with all kind of ships we have in our Navy, all our submarines as with nuclear propulsion. So we will be very interested by the capacity to stop, to have a call in Japanese harbor, in Japanese facilities, and the same from our aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle. And finally, a cooperation from with Japanese forces. We are working on to develop all the aspect of the cooperation in naval aspect with Coast Guard and with the Navy, because in French Navy we do not have a Coast Guard force. We have what we call Coast Guard function. I mean, our different services acting at sea are in charge of law enforcement on the command of the admiral commanding the maritime zone. And it was my job from 2020 to 2022. So we were working on to improve our cooperation with Coast Guard. We organized a seminar we called Coast Guard Network Seminar. I started the first rendezvous, the first appointment in 2021 in November. It was a decision of our President Macron. So we will continue at this level and to the high intensity level I just mentioned before with aircraft carrier, with submarine, with aircraft coming from our Air Force. We deploy, you noted that, we deploy in 2021 Rafale to our territories in French Polynesia, last year in New Caledonia, and we are working on a deployment of Rafale to Japan and other partners in the area. So, of course, this cooperation is in progress, and our two countries want to develop it.
Thank you very much, Admiral. Very useful. Kitagawa-san, would you like to add your own remark as well?
Yeah, yes. Okay. It's very difficult to speak after Admiral Ray or the Tokuchi Sensei. Thank you, Céline, for pointing the questions out. First, I'll talk about the current future cooperation, particularly in Navy side with French Navy, then about the RAA, then about the relation with Coast Guard shortly. So I was not able to, because the first speaker is a bit difficult. You don't know how much you think you need to give the time for the other speakers. Anyhow, so we work with French force every day, actually. We do have the facility in Djibouti. We have operated from Djibouti since 2009. We have 2 maritime patrol aircrafts constantly, and we do have a facility very close to the French base in Djibouti. And we also send 1 destroyer constantly for multi-mission. 1 is for counter-piracy, and also for the information gathering of these the regions. So about 150 personnel in Djibouti and about 200 at sea. So so roughly 350 to 400 Japanese Defense Force personnel is in the Western Indo-Pacific, if you like. So in that one, and also the yes, the Admiral mentioned about ECC mission for with UN mandate in for North Korea's smuggling. Yes, they operate from Japan. Indeed, we do cooperate. And so these actual operational setting, and also the Admiral mentioned that the RIMPAC. I was a Japanese task group commander for 2020 RIMPAC, and I was very impressed. The French commanding officer was with me when we do the multitasking exercise. Really professional and really have unique sense of humor, and really impressed the high quality of French Navy. Also, the Admiral mentioned about the our college hosting the Indo-Pacific Naval College Seminar. It says college seminar, but in reality, we do have officers from 19 countries, from naval staff, institution or college, and we did have a French commander from French operational center. It's really important also for future. I understand the French send the cadets to our National Defense Academy, both for like Army, Air Force, and then Navy cadets. So, and we constantly send our students to the France Joint Staff College. So, all in all, we do have these, interaction in daily basis. For the future, there are not many aspects from like strategic level to tactical level, but for the naval term, it's relates to the RAA agreements, but more interoperability, more how we do things, more advanced operation together would be the way to go for bilateral cooperation, and I think we are going that way. So that's my comments for your first one. Second one's the RAA. It's a reciprocal access agreement, which is make more easier for people to move. So if I go to France, it's more easier to get more welcomed. And if Adam Ray comes to Japan, it's also welcome and do make things business easier. And indeed, it's on the agenda, I understand. So it's more Japanese, rather bureaucracy or like legislative procedure. And since the Japanese strategy mentioned France, in Europe, UK, France, Germany, and Italy, and as you know, with Japan is going to make a fighter with UK and France. Italy. I hope France could enjoy, but these cooperations, and also so having said that, France is the core country in Europe. Japan would like to cooperate. It is only natural because we just did with the UK, and that is automatically that's next is France. So I understand in the ministries they're working very hard for this RAA to make things easier. A third one with the Coast Guard. It's a bit beyond my pay grade or my responsibility, but as a practitioner, which I've been working with Coast Guard for more than 30 years, and it is, our relation is getting better and better. Yes, fundamentally, the law scheme has a difference, but in reality, in around Japan, we do have a share, and we cooperate a lot. For example, now the Japanese Coast Guard is operating an unmanned aerial vehicle, UAV, from JMSDF Air Base in Hachinohe, which is northern Japan. Yeah, so we do have a smooth operations in that aspect. Yes, and because it's a contested water, as the Céline mentioned, our region, it's really important that we are in one team for the maritime security. And Japanese Coast Guard is really doing a wonderful job with ASEAN nations, like particularly, like for example, like Philippines, Indonesia, these the countries, along with Japanese sea lanes of communication to the Middle East, i.e. capacity building or providing more patrol boats. Which Coast Guard, it will be more easier to go access to most countries than the gray ship, like our Navy ships. And also in the Gulf of Aden, when we do anti-piracy operation, we always have the Coast Guard officers with us who are law enforcement. So in terms of question with Japanese Coast Guard, I think, well, it's unlike French, it's one organization with different organization, different ministries, but with our common understanding with all Japan pitch, I'm very optimistic our relation, and we respect each other at sea. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Captain. I will later on turn on to Tokuchi-san to get his own kind of remark or a reaction also on all this, but for the sake of time and to take advantage of the presence of Admiral Ray, I would like to bring another question to him regarding the other cooperation opportunities for Japan and France in the region, considering the recent development that we can discuss later on a bit more. For example, we've seen that Japan is getting closer to the Philippines in recent months and working in a trilateral manners with the US. Also, of course, you referred Kitagawa-san to the fighter, the next generation fighters that will be developed with the UK and Italy. And third, maybe it's very topical right now. You have the South Korean president Yoon in Japan, and actually with a very historical move, maybe to go beyond irritants in the relation to resume a more ambitious security cooperation. So I would be later on very interested to hear more about the prospect for this bilateral security cooperation between Japan and ROK and also with the US. But I'm wondering how France is seeing all this later development and what would be the role and place of France in these various settings. Admiral?
Thank you. Thank you, Céline, for the question. Of course, from the point of view of France, all these partnerships between like-minded countries are good news from a French perspective. We mentioned, and I did during my presentation, cooperation with Japan and the US, but of course we have other partners. In the ECC mission, we are about 10 nations working on this anti-proliferation operation, and we try to develop cooperation to other partners in ASEAN. For instance, we have a strong relationship with Singapore and Malaysia. And we are developing our relation with the Philippines and Indonesia. So in the Philippines, why not to be at 3 with Japan. It's an option, of course, when we see after the elections, the new the new policy of the Philippines. Of course, France is eager to cooperate with this country, and at all level. I mean protection of EEZ, HADR mission, and high intensity mission too. With other countries, I mentioned our exercises we did every year in the south of Pacific. We work already with Thailand, with Vietnamese. We conduct port visit in Brunei. So we want to develop with this, once again, like-minded countries, cooperation in the different domains. It could be also information sharing. It's already the case in white shipping, due to thanks to the International Information Fusion Center in Singapore for this part of the world. We have, of course, procurement programs in this country. And coming back to information sharing, of course, we have to develop military intelligence. We do already with Japan and with the US and other US partners, with the Five Eyes, and we could open this sharing once again with like-minded countries. That is the idea. I have to stop that due to my next appointment. I'm sorry about that, but we will continue. We could continue this discussion, for instance, in Singapore next May during the IMEX and IMCC appointments.
That's excellent. Thanks a lot, Admiral. We are very happy, delighted to have you this morning for this important discussion. And I'm sure you're just keeping the ball rolling on the bilateral cooperation, and much more will happen in the next months. So have a good day, and thanks a lot again for your time.
Thank you, Céline. Thank you for your invitation. And see you soon to the other participants, for instance, in Singapore, once again.
Sure. Okay, and now we have only a couple of minutes left, and that's a pity because we have so much to cover, actually. So maybe I will add some other all of the questions that we got from the public, and also the other remarks that we touched upon beforehand. But I have a question from Lionel Faton, who has published recently a book, actually, on Japan's Pacific War decisions and so on. So he's closely following the defense strategic decision in Japanese, and he's raising a question about the Taiwan Straits. And he said that he saw that in the strategic document, Japan states the objective of shaping its security environment. And he sees that as a reference to the Taiwan Strait dynamics. And so he's asking how Japan could actually shape the situation in the Taiwan Strait. And I would have another question, of course, what would happen in case of a hot crisis in the Taiwan Strait? I guess a lot of kind of wargaming exercise have been going on in Japan. So what are the main result of that? I have an interesting question also from Anna Kiriva from Moscow and Gimo, about the change. How would you assess the change in Japan's perception and indeed consideration of Russia and Russia's Navy in the Indo-Pacific. She recalls that in the past there have been some cooperation between the Japanese and Russian Navy. Is it the case, or is Japan's looking at Russian Navy more as a challenge or a threat even now in the new context? Then I would like also to raise the question of the bilateral cooperation between Japan and ROK. Again, I think it's very topical, so very important to tackle right now. And another question we got from the public regarding NATO. NATO has closer partnership with Japan. In the recent years, how do Japan see its partnership with NATO? How do you, what is your expectation about NATO's roles also in the Indo-Pacific? So I will turn to Captain Kitagawa and then Tokuchi-san for all your reaction, if you agree.
Okay, Céline. Since the time is limited, I will make comments on these questions quickly. First of all, with other regions, you made about the most things are covered by Admiral Ray. It's where the approach would be very similar. So fundamentally, how the French and Japan can do it. I think if you talk about in the Pacific region, we have to, as Tokuchi-sensei mentioned, the United States is a really key big player. So unlike Europe, in the Pacific is more like hub and spokes, US centered, and we have to bilateral alliances. Hence, Europe, you have like more multinational setting from the first hand. So having said that, France and Japan, our common ally is the United States. But although we do operate every day, we have disagreement, and we have agreement, if you like. So, and I think France too is the United States. So I think the key is the word Admiral Ray said, autonomy. And in my personal experience with the United States, they respect our autonomy a lot. So if the US doesn't agree things, but which good for the like FOIP vision and so forth, maybe the France and Japan will cooperate in that sense, which can be coming up with expertise and so forth. That's the baseline I would like to speak to our French friends, like particularly like Captain Pipolo, who used to be in Tokyo. About for Taiwan Strait, it's touchy issue, so I think Tokuchi-sensei can elaborate more. But for us, this is more political decision. But you have to think that when it comes down to service, it's when the diplomacy fails or politics fails. So you have to look at what Chinese politics, like for example, President Xi Jinping did the third terms as a president, and does he want that? That's. Although say that and do it might be different, and Taiwan is at sea, so we have to have a more comprehensive thinking. But for the service professional, we only have to say we prepare, and we have a law scheme to do it, and I think Tokuchi-sensei can do that. Say more. About relations Korea, yes, the Tokyo is high alert past few days with President Yoon visit, and I think it's marvelous. It's because it's very natural that Japan and Korea cooperate. We did have a sad incident. They shoot their fire control radar to our merchant patrol aircraft, which is unacceptable, and they know it. But our professional level in Navy to Navy, we do exercise like outside Japan. We do so. I think our professional cooperation would be more easier if these political level get more closer. That's the one pitch. About Russia, yes, from Moscow, yes, we did the like search and rescue exercise and so forth, but it's a bit difficult because the security in Europe is directly connected to security in the Pacific, actually. So, but we need to cooperate in the like piracy or like search and rescue and so forth. And important thing is has maintained the communication. And Russian Navy is also in the WPNS, which Admiral Ray said, Western Pacific Naval Symposium, which has like a queues. We have the like a code for unintended encounter at sea, so we can use this code to communicate, to have minimize the misunderstanding. That's very important. For NATO, yes, it's I think like I told in the panel earlier about the importance of France. So in NATO, we can have bigger term, more strategic level on the like cyber and space and so forth. So if when they can come, we welcome. So I think I stop here. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. Tokuchi-san, I think you will have the last word for this this one. We can add a few more minutes to hear you on this.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. First of all, Korea, as Captain Kitagawa correctly mentioned, the U.S. alliance relationships in the Indo-Pacific is kind of hub and spokes system, but it's becoming more like U.S.-centered alliance network. And Japan, South Korea, and Australia, these three countries are the integral parts of the alliance network. Therefore, not only U.S. and Japan or U.S. and Korea, but also Japan, Korea, the partnership between these two countries is increasingly important. And Japan and Korea have many reasons to cooperate with each other. Actually, we are eternal neighbors, and we have common threats, particularly in North Korea. And as I said, both are important allies of the United States. Actually, Japan and South Korea are the only two countries in Northeast Asia which support U.S. robust presence in Northeast Asia. So we have many reasons to cooperate. And North Korea, in my mind, North Korea's denuclearization is almost impossible, particularly due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. No UN security resolution for further sanctions, almost impossible because of the obvious objection from China and Russia. So it is very, that's why the partnership of US, Japan, and South Korea, in order to keep pressuring North Korea, that's very, very important. And I'm, of course, still there is some uncertainty about the future of the Korea-Japan relationship. But as far as the security relationship, I have become very much confident about the future of the security relationship, hearing the comments by Captain Kitagawa. Thank you very much. And in terms of Taiwan, the Xi Jinping and China does not deny the possibility of using force in order to annex Taiwan. And, so we have to be prepared because from the viewpoint of Japan, Japan is close to Taiwan, only 100 kilometers from the island of Yonaguni to the main island of Taiwan. So in that sense, a Taiwan contingency is a Japan contingency. That's correct. So in order to, I do not think that the Japanese defense forces will be sent to fight for Taiwan, but in case of a Taiwan contingency, but definitely Japan has to be more prepared for the defense of for the Japanese territory, and also the base protection and force protection for the United States force. That will contribute to the security of Taiwan as well. So that's what Japan will have to do. And NATO, yes, the security of Europe is not separate. I mean, there is no such thing as security for Europe alone or security for Asia alone. We are connected with each other. That's why NATO and Japan must cooperate with each other. So my idea is, why does NATO not send its representative? I mean, why does NATO not open its representative office in Tokyo, just like EU mission in Japan? So I think if it is realized, the closer cooperation between NATO and Japan will be much easier, I think. And finally, Russia. Yes, Russia was a partner in the national security strategy of 2013. I think it was based on the rosy assumption about Russia. So actually, I personally do not like that. And right now, the new national security strategy said that Russia is a matter of a strong security concern. I think that's a reasonable, assessment. So we have to, and Russia and China are colluding with each other in the vicinity of Japan. So we have to keep vigilant against Russia. But as Captain Kitagawa said, crisis management, that's very important. And as a person who participated in the, making of the Ink-Sea agreement between Russia and Japan, I would say that crisis management is very, very important. Yeah, but we should not do beyond that right now.
Great. Thanks a lot, Tokuchi-san. You did a great job to sum up all your remarks. And now we are at the end of our webinar, and I feel quite frustrated because I feel that we touched only on a fraction of what we could have discussed, because the topic is so rich and so complex. But I'm nevertheless very happy that we could shed light on Japan's latest strategic developments and how it is significant for the bilateral cooperation with France. I think that we will see more, advanced cooperation in the coming months, and this is indeed very much welcome and necessary also to tackle all the various security challenges and threats that we have. So with that, I would like to thank the panelists once again for the great contributions, and thanks the public for sticking with us. And I hope you have a good day, a good afternoon, a good evening, and looking forward to seeing you all again to continue the discussion. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you.